Hi there, John Spiers here with a handy recipe for you. Now, I don't know if you're anything like me, but if you grow your own fruit and veg, at this time of year, what you have a lot of is courgettes. This is a recipe to use up some of the larger courgettes you could potentially have. This is what mine look like. The recipe is for a trumpet. All you'll need is one oversized courgette, medium-sized carrot chopped to about that length. It's got a hole drilled through the middle of it. You use a teaspoon to scrape out a sort of depression in the top. Trim down with a paring knife, goes kind of round the hole. You can test your mouthpiece.
Trumpety noise.
The main ingredient is the courgette, halfway between courgette and marrow size. Cut off both ends, scoop out as much of the flesh as you can with a spoon, the handle of a ladle, and on this side I drilled a hole. They meet up in the middle, so there's an airway there. All the bits out. It's really messy inside. The reason I'm doing this is because Virtually FolkEast is happening this year, and I'm going to be part of it. I'm very proud to be part of it, and Gardeners Cornered is going to be having a competition to make the best, the loudest musical instrument out of fruit or vegetables. So this is my first attempt. I don't think this will be my entry. Let's give it a go. Tune back in for more fantastic ways of how you can use up courgettes.
Our next feature this afternoon, if you've been to FolkEast before, hopefully you have experienced the magic of Gardeners Cornered. You see what we did there? It's very clever. There's some very interesting objects up on the stage behind me, and I'm sure all will be revealed by our Gardeners Cornered experts. We have Steve Coghill and John Spiers. Please put your hands together for the Gardeners Cornered. Thank you.
John, you put down your melodeon.
Yeah, here we are again, eh?
Here we are again. It's Pete and Dud. Or Burke and Hare. I'm not quite sure which. Anyway, introducing on my right-hand side, the man who needs no introduction, John Spiers, who not only is a superb melodeon player, as you're well aware, but also is an alumnus of King's College, Cambridge, Plant Sciences, and is an allotmenteer superb. And delighted to have John here with his other guys on. And of course, I'm Steve Coghill. I'm the head gardener of King's College myself. So John and I have a lot in common, and John's been basically teaching me all the places to hide. If you don't want to get any trouble, if you don't want to have to be seen to do any work. But further ado, welcome to Gardeners Cornered.
Yes, welcome to Gardeners Cornered. I think Steve is doing himself down there. Basically, he's the one that knows stuff, and I'm the one that has a go at growing vegetables. Without further ado, the Gardeners Cornered is basically a massive rip-off of Gardener's Question Time with a folk tinge to it.
Yep.
And we've been sent some post-bag edition questions, so I'm going to kick off right with the first one.
Yep.
For you, Steve.
Yep.
Adrian Dickerson would like to know, what could have caused scabs on my potato, and what do I do to avoid a similar outcome next year, please? Also, my purple sprouting broccoli has been decimated by some pests. How do I avoid from a novice gardener?
Yes, potato scab. I think your advice earlier, John, was that the most pertinent was if you have potato scab, move to Wales. because it never stops raining. Basically, potato scab is something that's caused if you don't actually irrigate thoroughly enough. The potatoes themselves are fine. You can peel them, you can eat them, they're delicious. It just means they do look a bit scabby. But I think you've got a few more bits on that, haven't you? Yeah.
Well, I mean, yes. I think potato scab, if the potatoes are left in the ground for a long time afterwards, the scabby bits can sometimes become a bit attractive to slugs when it gets wet again. I've found that seems to be where the holes start. But if you harvest fairly early in the season, then it doesn't do any real damage to the potatoes, but you probably can't sell them in Waitrose.
Yes, Waitrose. We all have Waitrose. Apparently Sainsbury's was created to get the riffraff out of Waitrose, but I really couldn't say anything more about that.
So the second half of the question was, my sprouting broccoli has been decimated by some pests. How do I avoid? And, well, it could be pigeons. It could be cabbage white butterflies.
Yep, it could be. It could be. Did I hear a hiss from the audience there?
I mean, basically, it could be anything, couldn't it, Steve? Because everything likes cabbages.
Everything likes broccoli and cabbages except small children. So that you can rule them out straight away. Although the more sort of clever ones might actually be in the gardens, attacking them with a hole punch so that it doesn't actually reach the table. I think I'm kidding.
So basically, the advice for both these problems is move to Wales and put your vegetables in a big cage.
And remove hole punches from small children.
I think we've covered that one.
I think we have. I feel quite happy about that one. I don't know about you. Oh, just as an aside, it's quite interesting. Scrumping in estate gardens is something which has gone on for probably hundreds of years. You know, scrumping when you scrump apples or you go and you scrump vegetables. Particularly apples and plums and pears, they used to play victim to small children shinning over the estate wall, helping themselves and shinning back again. And one trick that the old head gardeners had learnt was to, at the time when cropping was happening, they would actually smear the top of the walls with red lead paint, so that when the youngsters went over the top of the walls, they'd usually have a smear of red lead paint on the backs of their trousers. And the next day when they went to school, the headmaster would stand outside the school looking to see who had the red lead on their trousers before grabbing them by the ear and taking them off to the headmaster. So don't try that at home, though. I think it's illegal now. Anyway, John.
Yes, well, are we going to go on with another one of these?
Shall I do one?
Would you like to do one?
Yeah, I'll do one. Yeah. Okay, we're on safari now. As you can tell, Blacksall is a very dangerous place with these jackalopes lurking in the hedgerows. But this is all about beans. My safari beans mostly come up stunted and knobbly on my allotment this year. Any ideas why? And that's from Robert Logan on Facebook. So thank you, Robert, for this one. And I'd hand you over to the vegetable aficionado, John.
Well, safari is a variety of French bean, and I thought beans were supposed to be knobbly.
Yeah, I think they are supposed to be knobbly.
I mean, I don't quite understand from the question whether the knobbles are on the plant or on the bean itself.
Yeah.
If it's the bean pods themselves, then I think probably what's happened is that you've let them grow beans, which is, if for a French bean, you've let them go too far. You should have picked them earlier.
Yeah, exactly. And you also got to think about the fine bean, haven't you? Or was that the
fine beans, yes.
Fine beans, where you don't let them produce the beans, which I think is terribly cruel and should be banned by the Geneva
They shouldn't be
Convention.
called beans, really. They should be called pods.
Pods, yes, yeah. I totally agree. So that's where it's going on. In terms of the stunting, well, you know...
Are they dwarf French beans? I
think they're dwarf. Funny that. But sometimes peas and beans and everything can they although they are legumes, and as John will tell you, they do produce their own nitrogen through a symbiotic relationship with nitrobacter bacterium that actually live in nodules that beans produce on their roots. So beans and peas are great because when you sort of cut off the pea haulm on the top, or the bean haulm on the top, you leave the roots in because that's where all the nitrogen is released back into the ground. But if you're on very, very poor ground, you do need to give them a bit of a head start, and this is where a bit of seaweed extract comes in handy.
Yeah, I mean, some things can thrive on very poor ground, but beans and peas are all very, very thirsty plants as well.
Yeah.
They use a lot of water. So
Yeah.
if you're in some quite dry, dusty soil, then very few things don't benefit from the addition of a whole load of organic matter of your choice.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, of your choice. Thank you. And thank you, John. Thank you, Robert, for the question. Yep.
Shall I go for another one of these
Yep, let's go for another
post-bag
one.
ones?
Yep.
Hi, Gardener's Cornered. I get a problem with my greenhouse peppers and chilies every year. Small holes around 1 - 33 metres in diameter. What?
Yep.
What 1 to 30?
Yeah.
Maybe this has been written down off the internet, so it might not be exactly what was written.
Yeah.
Close to the stem, so it's holes, little holes close to the stem, where the stem joins onto the body of the pepper, and I have attached pictures. But then this has been handwritten, and someone's had to draw the pictures, so they look like that.
I think 0 out of 10 for the pictures there, John.
I think we've done very well to get this far, to be honest with you.
I think we have. I think we should plough on regardless.
But they're basically holes near the bit where the stem joins the chili or pepper. In my experience, 99% of the time, well, it happens 99% of the time in my greenhouse, and it's always woodlice for me. Woodlice love peppers, but not enough to eat all of it.
No.
And what they tend to do is they eat a little hole and they go inside and try and eat bits of it from the inside after that. And it's pretty horrible when you pick one and there's sort of 10 woodlice in there.
Yeah, it's worse. It is really. Yeah, there's an easy way of actually determining whether you actually have got woodlice in your pepper. What you have to do is sever the pepper from the plant, hold it up to your ear and rattle it. And if you hear little voices saying, "Stop doing that," then you know you've got woodlice. But woodlice that have obviously developed a really fine civilization within your pepper. So don't dispose of them.
Yeah.
They might be.
And I wouldn't recommend getting rid of woodlice because they're very, very useful animals in the garden. They're one of the best breaker downers of compost, really. They take large stuff that they think is dead. And not needed, including your peppers.
Yes.
And they break it down into semaller things which can then biodegrade much better. So they're handy things.
They're really good. Detritivores. They are detritivores. Just don't ask me to spell that. That would go horribly wrong very quickly. Thank you. I think we've solved the holy pepper problem, John. Now, I've got one from Tim here. Hello, Tim. And this is a very appropriate one at the moment, bearing in mind the fact that everybody out there who's a gardener has currently got a courgette glut. Yeah, some people have got a courgette glut and they haven't even grown them. We're trying to work out how that happened. People keep giving them to you. Yes, John, stop it. Right, okay. So it's hello from Tim. I've tried growing courgettes in grow bags this year next to tomatoes and broccoli at the bottom of a west-facing slope. All was well until the plants had produced a dozen, courgettes. Then leaves developed white spots before turning yellow. Courgettes never developed after that and started to rot back. Help! Could it be ants? Sorry. No, I don't think so. It's not going to rain. It's just going to go a bit dark for a while. Any precipitation you feel is completely and totally non-existent. Anyway, on to John. What do you reckon about this courgette one then?
Well, that whole family of plants is very susceptible to powdery mildew, and that sounds like it's what it is. If you've got white bits appearing on leaves of anything, that's quite some kind of fungal infection is to be suspected. And I've not found it really affects the courgette production, but if this is what's happened recently, it coincides with the fact that the weather's sort of gone a bit wet and not very summery, and courgettes plants, after they've given you their glut, can sometimes decide to shut up shop for a couple of weeks. And it's often checked by a bit of cold weather, a big amount of wind or rain, and that normally is my first suspicion if you've got rotting back of the courgettes and they're not setting properly. Yeah.
It's very true. That is true. I mean, the other thing that the little bit of word of warning about courgettes, because a seed company recently had a recall of courgette packets because courgettes are always best grown from seeds from a reputable company rather than saving your own, because there can be a risk if you're bringing on your own courgette seed that they can produce seed that have a sort of a toxic effect within the courgette itself. So always make sure you get your courgette seed from a reputable source. That's the end of the public broadcast.
Yeah. So what can they do about this powdery mildew then? What do you think is a good solution for that?
Yeah, powdery mildew is sometimes it just basically happens, but one of the ways of overcoming powdery mildew is a husbandry thing. Powdery mildew happens if the courgettes get very dry at the root, and that happens with a lot of powdery mildew. You know, if you have a look in your rose garden, it's the roses that are driest, and it's the roses nearest walls where the air is very still that end up with powdery mildew. And that's because in still air, the spores have a chance to settle out onto the leaves. And also, powdery mildew really enjoys very dry conditions, which is unusual for a fungus. But it's the downy mildew that likes wet conditions. So dry conditions and still air gives you powdery mildew. So grow your courgettes in an area where you get good airflow, and make sure you give them a really plentiful supply of water. You can also use fungicidal products that you can buy from your garden centres. And there are also sulphur preparations out there for those who are more organically orientated. But cultural things should help keep it under control, John.
Yeah, I mean there are some other advice, which is a bit more sort of home remedy type advice. Is for anything like that to prepare a bicarbonate of soda solution and spray with that, or I've heard of milk working as well.
Yep. Milk is a fascinating stuff because it's a lipid, and it used to be used a lot in the cucumber growing industry, which centred around Hull. Hello, all you Hull graduates over there. For some strange reason, cucumbers and Hull were very synonymous a few years ago, and the workers there would actually dip their hands in milk before fondling the working with the cucumbers and twining them in and twisting them, because the milk on your hands stopped tobacco mosaic virus being passed from one cucumber to another. And tobacco mosaic virus, as you know, is where the veins clear, they become very pale, the plant withers up and then sort of basically dies. So tobacco mosaic virus is something that you can avoid with milky hands. Tobacco mosaic virus, by the way, is passed often outside. It's passed around by aphids, but it's very difficult to dip aphids individually into milk. They don't like it. Thank you, John. Have you got another one?
Well, no, I'm done now.
Okay, right. I've got another one. Before we go on to our musical instrument, we've all heard beans, the musical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. Anyway, I understand that a number of cells within the organisation here, podettes, have brought musical vegetable instruments with them. Could we see how many people have brought musical vegetable instruments with them? Oh, yeah.
Hands up.
Yeah, hands up. Yes. Got 1, 2, 1, yep. Yeah,
there's more than one in some of these squares.
Yeah, and we've got more than one in some of the squares. I'm very, very impressed. A little bit later, John will be taking us through the judging.
So the judging is going to happen at a socially distanced distance, and so hopefully you're going to be nice and loud.
Yeah.
Have you got one more question there?
One more question, which we'll answer very, very quickly indeed. I'll handle this, John, before we go on to the music, because things are getting a bit lively here. It's an online question. If Godisha seeds are planted in April or May, should there be flowers on these by now? This is from Jenny Anderson. Jenny, yes.
What sort of seeds?
Godisha.
Oh, yeah.
Right. John.
Okay, well, I think we're going to go on to the musical instruments before everyone blows away. And so just a quick recap is that... I don't know if anyone saw the video I made, but I made a kind of trumpet out of a courgette, which is one thing you can do with a glut, and I made a mouthpiece for it out of a carrot. Now, unfortunately, between the time I made that example instrument and now, the carrot has now rotted away.
Big R for the carrot.
So I've got this new instrument here is a courgette, but the mouthpiece is now made out of elder. So I figured that elderberries are a fruit, aren't they? So the wood
they're
from
a
there,
fruit.
that counts, doesn't
You
it?
can get away with that, yeah.
So this is my elderberry and courgette clarinet. Admittedly, it sounds more like sweep than a musical instrument, but it does make a noise.
What John doesn't know is that is actually the mating call of the greater Blacksaw courgette. And any second now it's about to be mounted. So if you see me attacking John with a stick, you know what's going on.
So I think we better, without further ado, ask for some entries from the people who have done their vegetables for us.
Yep.
So could we start with this square in the front here? We've got 2 different vegetables in there.
Yep.
Are you a team or are you competing against each other?
Yeah.
A duet. Okay, well, let's hear the duet then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shh. That is absolutely lovely. Round of applause. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Well, it's nice. It's a chord.
I once ate a korma that had that effect.
And so,
wonderful. Thank you.
I very much enjoyed your performance. So the next people who
John.
are directly in my line of sight are the square behind. It's pitch number 9.
Yeah.
Now, are you competing? Are you competing against each other, or are you a team?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a potato you're
An
clutching,
army.
madam, or are you just
Army.
pleased to see me?
So I think what we can see here, if you strain your necks round, we have a mini vegetable drum kit. Is that right?
Yes.
Played with 2 French beans.
Yes.
Oh, my eyesight's better than I thought it was.
Yeah.
So,
The
and
hut
what
people
do we have
want it.
accompanying this drum kit? A potato with macaroni. That sounds delicious.
That
But
sounds
no-
like fusion food,
No, it's
John.
not for people on one of these keto diets. So, can we have your rendition now, please?
Yeah,
Yes,
no, we can.
we
Just
can,
mime
yeah.
it. Smoke on the water, please.
That's magnificent. Absolutely amazing.
That is just superb.
He's got all the licks as well.
That is superb television.
A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the very tiny drum kit made out of all sorts of things.
I've never
Are you
seen a
going to turn that
potato
into dinner
parodied.
later?
Oh, God, I could just...
Fantastic stuff.
Keith Moon, when he finishes parking his Rolls-Royce in the swimming
think-
pool, eat his drum kit.
So, do we have another square that you've noticed there, Steve?
Yep. Have we another square? Have we any more musical? Well, I think we have to actually divide up the awards here. And firstly, the loudest instrument, we have a banana, which we'll bring to you later, goes to the korma.
Plot number
Choir.
4.
Now,
Da-da-da-da.
have a banana. I think that the best vegetable instrument by far goes to the percussive.
The drum kit.
The drum kit.
is the best musical instrument made out of fruit and vegetables and all.
Yeah. And finally, the best performance with feeling, I think goes to the korma choir over there in the corner.
Yes. Beautiful chord playing.
Thank you very much. That has brought tears to my eyes. And talking of musical vegetable instruments, John.
Yes.
Yeah. I was just wondering if you had your harmonium there.
Melodeon.
Melodeon. Did I say
Can I
harmonium?
give a quick plug for an interesting musical instrument first?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
not an interesting.
Oh, sorry,
an
yes,
interesting
yes.
plant.
Oh, yeah, go for
So
it.
I've just bought. This is actual gardening rather than silly noises. I've brought along some cuttings of a plant I've brought, and I'd like to tell you about. I think it's an amazing thing. This is called Taunton Dean perennial kale, and it's a fascinating thing. It grows very like sea kale does. So if you've ever seen sea kale on the beaches, it's got big floppy leaves and stems fall all over, and it just makes a big mass.
Yeah.
But when this grows to, this will go on for years and years, and it will flop around like that. And every single little branch has a bunch of nice edible kale leaves
Yeah.
that are absolutely delicious. And I'm telling you this because I think It's a fantastic thing to grow if anyone out there is interested in growing plants. Now, where can you get one of these, you might say? Well, most musicians come to a festival with CDs and books, and I have done that, so you can go and get those from the merch over there.
Yep.
But I'm also selling some Taunton Dean perennial kale. Have kale all year round forever for just £3 a plant.
Yep.
And go and see the merch people afterwards.
Yeah, John grows plants with veracity, everybody. I'd rush off and buy them. I've already bought his Vietnamese coriander, which is so hot it blows your ears off, which is excellent. But I also believe you have an interesting percussive instrument down there that you have been having to rescue from the hut people all day.
Well, yesterday it was a percussion instrument, but I've cut a hole in it and a lot of the seeds have fallen out. I don't know if you can hear, that's the seeds that grew. And this is something called a shark's fin melon. And a shark's fin melon is quite a rare thing to find seeds of over here, but they grow them in China, and the flesh of this gourd type plant mimics the texture of the flesh of the shark's fin soup without having to have any meat in it. And so they make what they call poor man's shark's fin soup out of these. And if you want to grow something that makes you feel incredibly successful as a gardener, plant some of these, because they grow like stink. Mine probably went from here to where the hedge is over there. I mean, like a vine, massive long vine. And you get about 12 of these on each plant. And they taste awful. but they're incredibly productive.
Yeah.
And so, also, I've turned it into a bass instrument now. So
Go for it.
Well, it's a note of sorts.
There you go. Brian Eno's new album. Well, that's fantastic. John has also written an excellent book, which you should all rush out and buy. It's about wetland planting in the garden. Boggery in the garden is one I recommend for everybody. Rush out and buy several. And in the meantime,
I feel a lot safer with an instrument on it.
In the meantime, I have my musical instrument. It's actually a musical Chinese leaves, okay? And we're going to end this with a rending, a heart rending, or even a flesh rending duet of, wait for it, Ode to Pak Choi by Beethoven. Oh, come on. I don't get paid for this, you know. Thank you very much, and see you again next year.
Happy gardening.